Hello everyone, welcome to this Despicable Maine special. I am your host Ethan Drake. In today's special report, we address some of the dirty tricks the state of Maine uses to enslave the population and suck all possible wealth from the people. If you are unaware, the despicable state of Maine treats the people who live there as a commodity, otherwise known as slaves. If you live in Maine and do not think you are a slave, ask yourself this: what can you do in the state of Maine without paying a fee, otherwise known as a bribe? The answer is nothing. These bribes are either for a piece of useless paper or a sticker, both of which always seems to have a date that runs out. Then after that date, you are a lawbreaker, and now must pay another bribe for that. Today, instead of attracting businesses and manufacturing, Maine decided to manufacture lawbreakers instead. Maine is so desperate and despicable they made 450 laws last year alone. Get this, with a good percentage of these laws targeting men who are poor and cannot financially defend themselves. How despicable is that? The first thing to remember if you live in Despicable Maine is your life savings can be stolen by criminals posing as attorneys, assuring you of justice, but they are in reality working for the benefit of their fellow criminals posing as politicians, judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement. It seems none of them has any risk in violating every law in the books. Maine judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement are free to do absolutely anything they want with total immunity. Despicable Maine was created because of this blatant abuse by the state of Maine. Let's look at the reality of living in Despicable Maine. It's sad, but in this world there are wolves and sheep. Guess which one you are? The wolves are government and sheep the rest of us. The legal system is designed to extract as much money possible from you by use of judicial and prosecutorial misconduct, but that only applies if you are not a member of their good old boys club. If you are profiled as poor, disabled, or considered weak, you're an easy target to pay large fines and sit in their jail so they can collect federal funds and force sell you everything you need while in their custody. The reality is, jails are now a booming for-profit business in Maine and throughout the entire United States. In Maine, the court system in almost every county is the largest for-profit business in that entire county. And as we all know, for-profit businesses need customers just like you, a willing participant or not. The despicable state of Maine will use a vast assortment of dirty tricks to keep you from leaving the state and keep you there as an unwilling commodity, or in reality, a slave. Maine officials go so far as use the state fusion center to keep an eye on the people's bank accounts. If a person has over $5,000 in a bank, that person is red flagged and may just become a target of police and then the court system. Yes, they are this despicable. Understand the reality. Maine people not in the club are simply not allowed to accumulate any wealth, and this is just one of the despicable tricks they use. These despicable Maine officials also use the fusion center to monitor who books a plane ticket, and if possible, try to stop them and keep them from leaving the state. They have to do this because they are potentially losing a lifelong customer. This video exposes the dirty tricks they use to victimize thousands of Maine people each year. To protect yourself from these crooks, you must know how they operate. Then and only then you can protect yourself from this abuse. Only with understanding will you be able to not be a victim of the despicable state of Maine. So let's get right into it. Chapter 1. The Good Old Boys Club. If you're unaware, there's a distinct, exclusive, unofficial club in Maine. This special group comprises police, judges, attorneys, probation officers, jail officials, and other state employees, collectively known as the Good Old Boys Club. Those not part of this exclusive club are referred to as the other people, or you, representing the general public. The individuals in the club sustain their exclusive lifestyles by extracting wealth from the other people, or you, who are not members of the club. However, in cases where good jobs are scarce and you lack wealth, how do the club members take something you don't possess? The answer lies in Maine's utilization of every dirty trick in the book to ensure a conviction, making you their continuing customer. The state of Maine's financial stability heavily relies on lawbreakers. This is where your role as an unwilling participant comes into play. Whether you like it or not, manufacturing lawbreakers has become a top priority for the state. Laws in Maine no longer prioritize public safety but focus on maximum revenue generation. You, as a resident, are viewed as a continuous revenue source. To achieve this, The state aims to turn you into an unwilling yet obedient slave, employing various despicable tactics. Maine endeavors to make you a felon to hinder job opportunities, strategically escalating many offenses to felony status. This tactic extends to controlling you through your driver's license and imposing recurring fines, ultimately making you a controlled citizen or, in essence, a slave. Maine's strategy involves keeping you financially disadvantaged, preventing you from leaving the state for a better life. Unlike other states that employ civil asset forfeiture, Maine focuses on keeping people impoverished and extracting their wealth. The court system's goal is to make you a continuous repeat customer, even if it involves destroying your family and entire life for the court's profit. To the state of Maine, you are merely a source of continuous revenue, ensuring the comfortable lives of those in power. Unfortunately, your innocence holds no significance to the court, only a conviction matters. If you're not a member of the club, malfeasance may be used to turn your innocence into guilt. In the Maine legal system, the routine involves hiding or concocting evidence, as there is no revenue or continuing customer in your innocence. Police officers are often trained to lie, and evidence might conveniently disappear if it benefits your case or aligns with the district attorney's wishes. Staging photographs is not beyond them, as exemplified by an incident where legal items were portrayed as weapons. Filing Immediate Freedom of Information Act requests for evidence upon arrest is crucial, as evidence might mysteriously vanish before trial. The system counts on your lack of knowledge to defend yourself effectively. Once pegged as poor, disabled, or weak, you become an unwitting target, and the system doesn't care about you or your family. It's just business, designed to make you their slave in a perpetual cycle of fines. Waking up to this reality necessitates leaving the state. The good old boys club will employ every dirty trick and invent new ones as needed, so brace yourself for anything to secure a conviction. Remember, these individuals are experts at exploiting you, ensuring you remain their continuing customer and paying for their lifestyle. So, you find yourself being treated unfairly, and you want to raise a complaint about this misconduct. However, the system is intentionally designed to make it challenging because they want you to give up. Everything is intentionally designed to be compartmentalized, preventing easy complaints, filing, or seeking assistance. The intentional presence of an unhelpful staff behind the counter adds to the frustration. This person seems always unable to answer your questions, or the supervisor is conveniently unavailable, yet they still can efficiently handle collecting your fine payment, expressing your dissatisfaction about being mistreated, and your constitutional rights violated by the court too. The clerk of courts might lead to undesired consequences. The unhelpful staff member might fabricate non-existent violations and add them to your criminal record. Sadly, such practices are commonplace in Hancock County, mirroring similar issues in many other courts throughout Maine. The state employs psychological tricks reminiscent of historical methods used by the Nazis to control their public, using these advanced tactics within the court system to secure convictions. For a man in Maine not affiliated with the club facing any crime, the situation always becomes a catch-22. Either pay substantial sums of money, or face an inevitable guilty verdict with limited recourse. The good old boys club profits from any man charged with a crime, creating a system designed to trap individuals, irrespective of how they navigate it. If you're a woman wanting to harm your husband or boyfriend, Maine seemingly provides a convenient setting by fabricating a story about abuse. The district attorney often justifies the act, creating a troubling scenario. Maine excels at manufacturing fake crises, as seen with the current never-ending fake domestic violence crisis. Despite the state's domestic violence rates being comparable to other states per capita, Maine exploits this narrative for maximum profit. The district attorney's office has coaching services like Next Step, deploying trained counselors with expertise in psychological manipulation to assist women in obtaining protection orders. The financial gains from this scheme are significant, leading to expedited interventions aimed at securing these orders. The goal is to get that man into the system and on a payment schedule as quickly as possible. Maine's education system contributes to the problem by conditioning young girls to believe they will be victims of domestic violence. This state-sponsored psychological manipulation transforms girls into individuals who essentially works for the state, conditioned to call the police during any argument and potentially fabricate the events. For men not part of the club, the truth holds little value in the court, where financial gain takes precedence. Maine's oppressive tactics ensure a continued cycle of victimization, especially for those deemed targets of the state. The state employs every dirty trick to keep individuals financially drained and trapped. Maintaining control. In the current scenario, Maine acts as a police state, working towards becoming a total dictator state. Actually, it looks like it already is. There are more deaths than births recorded each year, prompted by many residents leaving, and exactly why the state is busing thousands of illegal immigrants from Mexico. Those remaining in the state becomes a choice between perpetual victimhood for life or departure, with almost every other state in the United States appearing more favorable. Maine seemingly asserts ownership over those born and still residing there, discouraging residents in every possible way from leaving. For local men not part of the club, accumulating real wealth is restricted due to the lack of good-paying jobs controlled by the state. The poor in Maine are systematically victimized over and over again, with their wealth channeled to members of the Good Old Boys Club. Recent scams include sentencing individuals to expensive counseling, further contributing to financial exploitation. The court's choice of lawyers for individuals is based on profiling, with Jeffrey C. Toothaker often selected for poor, disabled, or weak individuals, described by many as a congenital liar. Toothaker employs smoke and mirror technique, promising support but delivering nothing, especially during trials. This betrayal often leads to convictions and costly fines, turning individuals into financial resources for the state. Even in jail, inmates are subjected to exploitation through inflated prices for basic items and excessive charges for phone calls. Maine's system, it seems, is designed to keep individuals financially strapped and beholden to the state. Chapter 2: Profiting from Felony Status. The objective in Maine is to label you a felon because, in essence, the U.S. Constitution and your rights hold little sway in the state. Even if you assertively demand their preservation, they'll persistently attempt to violate them by default. They're fishing for a vulnerable target, namely you, to turn a profit. Anticipate the violation of every constitutional right by Maine judges, prosecutors, court-appointed lawyers, court staff, jail officials, and probation officers. Recognize that as a non-member of their club, you're deemed an enemy of the state and must pay. And this status is perpetual. Be mindful that the moment you assert your right, preservation, judges, prosecutors, court-appointed lawyers, court staff, and jail officials will swiftly become vindictive, doing everything to undermine you. They are habitual offenders, accustomed to trampling on individuals like you by defaulting on every right they can, fully aware of their violations but cautious not to be exposed, particularly by lower forms of life like you. Effectively combating this malfeasance involves meticulous documentation, record times, dates, and every detail of what transpired, including statements made, lies told, and the presence of any witnesses. If there's video or audio evidence, note the exact timestamp. You might need to file a Freedom of Information Act request later to obtain evidence of lies or threats. And don't expect assistance from any court-appointed lawyer. If you're in jail awaiting trial, consider waiting until it's over to file complaints. Keeping your intentions discreet, keep silent and document everything, allowing them to deepen their pit of misconduct. Accurate documentation empowers you to file multiple complaints when the time is right. If you announce your intention to file complaints, expect severe retaliation to dissuade you. If they discover you're documenting their misconduct, they may try to confiscate your records in jail. Stay savvy. Their routine misconduct makes them susceptible to multiple valid complaints. The more complaints you file, the harder it becomes for them to fabricate their way out of it. Remember, outsmart them patiently, relish the satisfaction of filing valid, and consider exposing them through the media for what they are: criminals who believe they are above the law. The Good Old Boys Club is banking on your lack of knowledge on how to file complaints against them, preying on the poor, disabled, and those they perceive as stupid. Help thwart these culprits by filing numerous valid complaints. They expose themselves through frequent misconduct, targeting you with various transgressions once they perceive you as poor, disabled, stupid, or weak. Consider staying silent and meticulously documenting everything, allowing them to engage in misconduct, and filing valid complaints once you're at a safe distance. Filing complaints while living in their jurisdiction risks framing you, so choose the opportune moment carefully. However, your presumed innocence is irrelevant in any Maine court, or with any court-appointed lawyer. To be prudent, treat every interaction with your court-appointed lawyer as if you're conversing with the district attorney. Your court lawyer essentially works for the district attorney since they're paid by whoever foots the bill, and that's not you. Exercise caution in your communication with any court-appointed lawyer. The exact percentage charged varies for each person, determined by how they profiled your intelligence. The more they perceive you as uneducated or stupid, the higher the charged percentage. Even after enduring the profit-driven jail and dealing with unscrupulous jail officials, you encounter probation bringing its own set of scams. The Maine Probation Office attempts to extort money from you for being on probation. A blatant lie and an extortionate scam. Don't fall for it. Instead, feign compliance initially but refrain from making any payments. Toward the end of the probation period, when threatened, stand your ground, highlighting that the state cannot force an extortion payment for probation. Ignore any further discussions on the matter. Be cautious in your conversations with the probation officer, as their role is to keep you enslaved to the state. Make them believe they're succeeding without actually complying. Remember, during your probation period, you're their convicted state slave, and they are your state's master, a form of modern-day slavery in America. Post-conditioning by the probation officer, you'll continue facing endless fines. In Despicable Maine, the state employs various tactics, like doubling your fines through fabricated programs, all designed to keep you impoverished and consistently paying them, or else they anticipate your inability to pay. They are just waiting for a missed payment to issue an arrest warrant, perpetuating the cycle of misconduct with you as the victim all over again. The state has mastered profiting from keeping non-members of the club destitute and preventing them from leaving. Maine exploits any excuse to elevate a minor traffic violation to a felony conviction, aiming to keep men in the system and ensuring they remain repeat customers for life, trapped in a perpetual struggle for survival day after day until they die. Sound like such a nice place to live if you want to be a repeat victim. Chapter 3. Navigating Police Interactions. Maine's police force resembles a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. While some officers are courteous and just, others exhibit a Gestapo-like demeanor, reveling in an incessant power trip. The truth is, a majority of Maine police officers take pleasure in distorting incident details to portray situations as far worse than reality. Their primary objective is arrest and conviction, making deception and fabrication routine practices. It's crucial to bear in mind that all police officers are part of the good old boys club, of which you are not a member. If an officer concocts facts and commits perjury in court, they enjoy immunity, facing no repercussions for their actions. District attorneys in Maine commonly instruct officers to manufacture evidence, encouraging them to disregard court orders or conveniently misplace evidence that might benefit you. Such practices have become standard behavior over the years, illustrating the routine misconduct prevalent in today's law enforcement landscape. It is truly sad that this is the reality today. Chapter 4. Once Arrested Assessment. In the realm of the kangaroo court, an arraignment, typically the initial phase of the criminal procedure unfolding in a courtroom, unfolds before a judge. Its purpose is to apprise the accused of the charges brought against them. This requirement, stemming from the Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution, safeguards against authorities detaining individuals without specifying the charges for an extended period. Maine has yet to find a way to circumvent this. Consequently, an arraignment must transpire within a stipulated time frame post-arrest, often within 72 hours. Failure to comply could furnish the accused with an argument that their constitutional right to a speedy trial has been violated. The regulations surrounding arraignments differ based on whether one faces federal or state charges, and also hinge on their state of residence. Discrepancies exist regarding whether arraignments are obligatory for felonies or necessary for misdemeanors. As a general guideline, if potential jail time looms upon conviction, an arraignment is probable. Maine courts are so despicable, they will false claim you have no right to a court-appointed attorney if the district attorney is not asking for jail time. This dirty trick is to deny you due process. File a judicial complaint against any judge that says this nonsense. In Maine, the arraignment actually serves as an assessment. This is where you are initially profiled by the court for potential revenue that may be generated by your conviction, with the issued lawyer of the day primarily concerned with gauging your financial capacity for bail. The district attorney then leverages this information during the arraignment itself, often requesting an amount tenfold what you can afford. The reality is, at the assessment, whatever queries your lawyer of the day poses might later be used against you by the district attorney. This lawyer, working directly for the district attorney, may function as your first avenue for a valid bar complaint during court proceedings. Observe how this lawyer retrieves the file from the district attorney's desk, questions you, records your responses, and returns the file promptly. A few minutes later, facing the judge alongside your lawyer of the day, that just gathered evidence to be used against you and the district attorney. Your answers may be wielded against you. The automatic assumption of guilt prevails in the eyes of the court, as fair and unbiased courts seem elusive in Maine. Your lawyer of the day refrains from seeking bail or supporting your cause, reinforcing the automatic presumption of guilt. Recognize that your lawyer of the day is complicit in a routine that involves gathering information for the district attorney and aiding in your conviction. This kind of misconduct is disturbingly common in Hancock County and many other Maine counties. Combating this misconduct involves filing valid complaints against each involved party for each violation. Document meticulously whether you are in jail or not. Understand that court-appointed lawyers may default to dishonesty, so consider recording conversations with them using your phone. Such lawyers may not be the brightest, and questioning them strategically may unveil the misconduct they are perpetrating. Utilize this knowledge to confront them and, if needed, file complaints. Maine court-appointed lawyers should be held accountable for their actions, as this narrative underscores their involvement in questionable practices. The entire legal process is kangaroo right in front of you. Chapter 5. Navigating court-appointed attorneys when finances are scarce. You're compelled to sign papers seeking a court-appointed attorney, making you a prime target for profiling by the district attorney's office. The stark reality is that your court-appointed attorney has a primary mission aiding the district attorney in securing your conviction. Brace yourself for a journey where your appointed lawyer gains experience at your expense, using you as a stepping stone up the ladder of corruption for a better paying position. You, not being a member of their exclusive club, become collateral damage in their pursuit of personal gain. In the context of Maine, anticipate the district attorney and your court-appointed attorney engaging in various forms of misconduct, including conduct unworthy of an attorney, actions prejudicial to the administration of justice, and a lack of reasonable skill and care. They may fail to disclose evidence favorable to your case, suppress evidence they are obligated to produce, and employ means inconsistent with truth to mislead the jury or judges. Court-appointed attorneys, exemplified by individuals like Jeffrey Toothaker in Hancock County, are adept at manipulation, prioritizing conviction over your defense. Documenting every interaction becomes crucial in identifying and later filing valid complaints against such misconduct. Public defenders, such as those in Hancock County like Jeffrey Toothaker, Robert Van Horn, Mary Kellett, Charles Helfrich, and William Blaisdell IV, are essentially defenders of the public from you. Chances of securing a court-appointed lawyer not influenced by the district attorney in Maine are practically non-existent. Exercise caution in your interactions with these lawyers, understanding their role in facilitating your conviction. Documenting ethical violations is recommended for potential future bar complaints against these puppet lawyers, who strive to ensure your lifelong status as a customer or in reality a slave. These lawyers may ignore you by default, reserving their communication for information-gathering sessions, screening you for awareness of their misconduct. If you're perceived as uninformed, they might boldly violate your constitutional rights, such as claiming you're ineligible for a jury trial. While court-appointed attorneys project an image of assistance, their actual goal is to collaborate with the district attorney, nudging you toward plea bargains rather than jury trials. Your innocence, in their eyes, holds no monetary value. Their focus is solely on securing a conviction. For those of you who live there, does any of this sound familiar? Chapter 6. Unraveling prosecutor misconduct. Prosecutors and their proponents argue vehemently for complete and absolute immunity from civil liability, asserting its indispensability for the effective execution of their duties. They contend that self-regulation and professional sanctions from state bar associations serve as adequate deterrents for misconduct. However, scant evidence supports the notion that state bar associations effectively police prosecutors, and numerous studies indicate that instances of misbehavior seldom result in professional discipline. Combating this misconduct involves filing valid complaints, leveraging their professional licenses as a point of attack. When they transgress their own rules of conduct, prosecutors go to great lengths to obfuscate the process of filing a valid complaint. Just ask Mary Kelly Gray, attempting to shield themselves from accountability. Various avenues exist for prosecutors to engage in misconduct, ranging from abusive investigative practices and coercive tactics to deception of eyewitnesses, forensic fraud, and the wrongful framing of innocent individuals. Common forms of prosecutorial misconduct include charging a suspect with more offenses than warranted, withholding exculpatory evidence, mishandling or destroying evidence intentionally, permitting dishonest witnesses to testify, pressuring defense witnesses, relying on fraudulent forensic experts, a default practice in Hancock County, overstating evidence strength during plea negotiations, making inflammatory media statements, delivering improper or misleading statements to the jury. And if you try to talk to the district attorney, they will likely false claim that they can only talk to other attorneys. If they pull any of those dirty tricks, file a bar complaint against them. Every prosecutor in Maine routinely practices this misconduct, with many believing they possess an unrestricted right to wield power as they see fit. In the face of such transgressions, document every detail, and when the opportune moment arises, file a valid complaint with the Board of Overseers of the bar. In their daily activities, prosecutors often make inappropriate comments to jurors or manipulate witnesses into providing false or misleading testimony. However, one of the most prevalent wrongdoings is the Brady violation, the failure to disclose favorable evidence to the defendant. Despicable Hancock County is well known for using this tactic on the unsuspecting. This misconduct is a common factor leading courts to overturn convictions. Does any of that sound like a prosecutor you have encountered? Chapter 7. Navigating Judge Misconduct. Judicial misconduct encompasses any transgression of the Maine Code of Judicial Conduct, spanning failure to perform duties impartially and diligently, lingering delays in court proceedings, involvement in cases with a conflict of interest, and any other behavior reflecting adversely on the judiciary's integrity. Excluded from judicial misconduct are rulings on law and facts, matters within trial court discretion, admissibility of evidence, decisions related to alimony, child support, custody, visitation rights, court-imposed sentences, and credibility assessments of witnesses. Today, Despicable Maine judges tell the stupid that they cannot get a court-appointed attorney if the district attorney is not asking for jail time. If you run into a judge that says this, file a complaint against them. How to file a complaint. Compose a letter to the committee or utilize the provided complaint form, ensuring your signature accompanies the submission. Committee overview. The Committee on Judicial Responsibility and Disability aids the Maine Supreme Judicial Court in supervising judges. It investigates complaints, conducts assessments, and initiates inquiries into alleged judicial misconduct. Upon receiving a complaint, the committee assesses its merit, dismissing unsubstantiated claims. If the complaint proceeds, the accused judge receives a copy and an opportunity to respond in writing. The committee, empowered to compel evidence under oath, conducts further investigations if the complaint is deemed unfounded. It notifies both the judge and the complainant. Otherwise, findings are reported to the Supreme Judicial Court, with potential recommendations for disciplinary action. Judge misconduct process. 1. Assessment determining if the allegations could constitute a code violation. 2. Investigation, sharing the complaint with the judge and seeking a written response. If necessary, the committee conducts further investigations. 3. Hearing held upon request by the majority of the committee or the implicated judge. The judge may have legal representation, and witnesses may be compelled to testify, creating a hearing record. 4. Disposition after hearing, deciding whether the judge violated the code, leading to disciplinary action, conviction of a disqualifying crime, or suffering from a disability affecting judicial duties. Findings of fact and conclusions of law are made. 5. Committee role in judicial appointment and reappointment processes, providing advice on complaints against judges up for reappointment, sharing information with relevant entities for United States government positions. 6. Duration, typically 3 months to resolve most complaints. Any of that sound like a judge you have encountered? Chapter 8. Filing police complaints. Crafting an effective complaint about police misconduct demands objectivity amid emotions. To enhance its impact, follow these tips. Take control. Write the complaint yourself. Don't let another officer draft it. Ensure control over content and insist on a written complaint, as it's harder to ignore. Emphasize seriousness. Clearly state the severity of the officer's misconduct and explicitly request a formal investigation. Follow deadlines. Be aware of filing deadlines. Provide good cause if delayed. Establish a pattern. State a pattern of wrongdoing if present to prevent dismissal as minor. Confirming witnesses. Have witnesses whose reports align with yours. Encourage them to write their accounts. Provide evidence. Submit evidence when requested. Obtaining a receipt to strengthen your case. Document and share. Keep copies secure and send one to a representative or politician. Adding pressure for proper consideration. To file a complaint, obtain a form from the police station. Bring a witness for professionalism and consider recording the interaction. Categories of misconduct include minor, general, and serious offenses. Focus on serious misconduct like excessive force, false arrest, or harassment. Specificity in complaints. Specify one class of wrongdoing to outline allegations and resist dismissal. Select applicable policy violations and list them boldly. Other misconduct includes abuse of process, misuse of authority, lack of manners or professionalism, neglect of duty, and retaliation. Highlight patterns of behavior and use certified mail for confirmation of receipt. Grievance process, intake level. Sergeant reviews to determine non-minor misconduct, dismisses trivial grievances. Informal investigation for minor misconduct involves debriefing with no formal findings. Demand a formal investigation. Formal investigation conducted by chain of command. Internal affairs report an authorized contact. Mediation involves community members, officials, or an independent monitor decline or accept based on your case. After a formal investigation, departments reach an official disposition, with outcomes like unfounded or sustained. Disciplinary actions may follow, making a red flag. Urban officers receiving 4 or 5 complaints in a quarter is high, indicating potential issues. Unidentified officer. Challenge the department on identifying the officer. Inquire about steps taken. Anonymous complaints. Dismissed unless alleging serious misconduct or corruption. Retaliation. Expected in Maine. Document instances, as it adds to the pattern of misconduct and strengthens your case. Be vigilant against potential framing or other tactics. Chapter 9. Facts, dirty tricks, what they don't want you to know. In this chapter, we'll delve into examples of typical misconduct and dirty tricks employed by Maine and the courts to control the public, revealing aspects they prefer to keep in the shadows. Automated guilt upon charge. Upon a criminal charge, the system tends to treat individuals as automatically guilty, especially if financial means are lacking to navigate its complexities. Court-appointed attorney's allegiance. Your court-appointed attorney may prioritize securing a conviction over ensuring justice, regardless of the truth behind the alleged crime or your rights. Exclusivity of the good old boys club. Prosecutors may be reluctant to engage with defendants outside the good old boys club, impacting fair communication and representation. Use of fake jurors. Courts may use fake jurors to manipulate outcomes, raising questions about the integrity of the judicial process. Yes, it is true. Courts throughout Maine use fake jurors to guarantee the desired results of a trial. Several investigators for this video discovered how this scam works. Basically, when the court wants to win a case, they just pick jurors that have no clue about the law, how courts work, then throw in a good old boys club fake juror as jury foreperson. Of course, the good old boys club fake juror has the knowledge to tell the other people how the law works during deliberation. Investigators for this video were working throughout the courthouses. They clearly witnesses the same exact individuals as jury foreperson in multiple trials. One even wore the same shirt, so the fake juror was easily identifiable at the time. The courts in Maine are totally despicable entities. Nothing they do is fair or even legal at all. In Maine, despicable trickery is the norm. Revenue-driven laws. Laws in Maine may seem geared more toward revenue generation than genuinely protecting the public. Prosecutorial misconduct. Prosecutors engage in various misconduct, including improper statements to the jury, evidence withholding, prejudiced conduct, and refusal to provide discovery materials to the defense attorney, evidence tampering and suppression, instances of ignoring requests to turn over key evidence, tampering with evidence, and instructing police to lose dash cam videos that could prove innocence have been reported, coercion of false testimony. Prosecutors might pressure police officers to lie in court, leaving even seasoned observers shocked by the extent of fabrication. Fictitious bail violations. Cases exist where prosecutors inform judges of alleged bail violations that never existed, creating additional challenges for the accused. Misuse of state psychological evaluations. Maine courts and court-appointed attorneys may use state psychological evaluations conducted by non-licensed professionals using a simplistic questionnaire. These lack credibility and can be manipulated to suit the prosecution's narrative. Prejudicial trial strategies. For those unable to post bail, prosecutors may insist on the accused attending trial in jail clothing, handcuffs, shackles, and a belly chain for dramatic effect. This tactic is often employed when evidence against the accused is weak, compromising fairness for a desired outcome. There are 2 jury rooms in Maine courthouses, one for good old boys club members, and one for the rest of us that are getting cycle of misconducted. The jury room for non-members of the club are small, have a desk you can barely walk around, and hardwood seating. The room has no windows or a window that don't open, and a radiator blasting away in the corner, keeping the temperature on the nice and warm side for your trial. We wouldn't want the jury to take too long being in a small room in high heat with 12 people. It won't take the fake jury foreperson long to convince anyone in that room to stand on their head or convict a ham sandwich just to get out of that room. This is exactly what this jury room is designed to do. Since you can't leave until you all reach a verdict, make the people as uncomfortable as possible. Out of 12 strangers, you are going to get someone who don't like to be in a hot claustrophobic environment. The facts about the case not so important to the hot claustrophobic person anymore. They just want out of that room. Magically, the court has the verdict they wanted real quick, and the fake juror can start to concentrate on the next stage trial. Then there is the good old boys club jury room. This room is much larger, like a conference room. It has a table, plush padded seats, a big screen TV, air conditioning, a microwave, and a mini fridge. In this room, the fake juror is more comfortable so they can take more time conditioning and persuading the carefully court-chosen jury based on their lack of knowledge and or intelligence, therefore easily persuaded to reach the desired verdict the court wants. Maine courts use psychological tactics the Nazis from years ago would have been proud of. Maybe they learned it from the Nazi transplants of the era that moved to Maine after the war and are now in government. Understanding these practices is crucial for navigating the legal system, emphasizing the need for reforms to ensure impartial justice. Maine judges, prosecutors, and court-appointed lawyers often convene before trials to predetermine outcomes. A trial in Maine is more of a formality, with decisions made well in advance, consistently favoring prosecutors over defendants unless the defendant is part of their exclusive club. To enhance profits for members of the good old boys club, Maine courts mandate propaganda therapy and costly counseling for individuals convicted of offenses. Surprisingly, a charge of operating after a license suspension can result in more jail time than a charge of molesting a child, emphasizing skewed priorities, prioritizing revenue over justice. If seeking a jury trial and not part of the club, be prepared for direct threats from the district attorney or your court-appointed attorney. They may warn of significantly increased jail time or imply the maximum legal penalty if opting for a jury trial instead of accepting a plea agreement. In some instances, your court-appointed attorney may falsely claim that you are ineligible for a jury trial and must accept a predetermined plea agreement, further limiting options. The Good Old Boys Club ensures that Regardless of the crime charged, they stand to profit from legal proceedings. Maine's approach involves creating problems and then compelling locals to pay, either through purchasing seemingly worthless paper and stickers or becoming lawbreakers for non-compliance. The state insists that stores must sell lottery tickets, despite the Maine lottery being criticized for having the lowest payouts, and scratch-off tickets with 0 winners. Except the state, even after paying fines. Maine employs a deceptive tactic by claiming, after 5 years, that you never settled the fine. They disregard the fact that you couldn't have regained your license or registered a vehicle without clearing the fines. This strategy targets unsuspecting individuals who may not have retained a money order receipt for years due to the fading ink on the printed receipts. Men who live alone without a license may face additional hurdles, such as being required to attend a court hearing in a different county, possibly resulting in a warrant if they can't make it. Attempts by men to reschedule court hearings are often automatically denied, showcasing a biased system that targets men. In Maine, the poor are systematically victimized, with their wealth consistently funneled to members of the Good Old Boys Club. The cycle of struggle and survival perpetuates, leaving the poor paying repeatedly, without any improvement in their circumstances. In Maine, due to a lack of good job opportunities, some women find a way to make a living by strategically having children with different fathers for a big payday. The process involves having a child by a different father every 2 to 3 years. When the woman visits the Department of Human Services, locally dubbed the Man Haters Club, she informs them of the suspected father of the child. The man will likely be found guilty by default and sent a bill with incurred interest. If the man falls for this scam and makes just one payment, it is an admission of guilt in the eyes of the state, and the man will be sent a bill until that child is 18 years of age. In a deceptive scheme related to pregnancy checkups, the state-funded WIC program misleads women with promises of free items for newborns. Women are tricked to unknowingly sign binding contracts and later receive bills for the supposedly free items, creating an undue financial burden on the named fathers. Maine's exploitation extends to vehicle inspections, making it nearly impossible for primarily poor men to comply. The state's vehicle-related regulations unfairly target poor individuals who cannot afford repairs, forcing them to drive with expired inspection stickers. This tactic increases revenue through fines and penalties, creating a cycle of victimization. This is what you can expect living in Maine. Sounds like a wonderful place to live, doesn't it? And then the state are baffled why people are leaving and not coming back. Despicable Maine has these crooks on the run. Multiple local newspaper websites, which are run by court staff, have redesigned their websites not to include articles that include who was charged with what, who their lawyer is, and if they are in jail. These counties also deleted the public jail roster. They did this because Despicable Maine has been sending people educational materials in their for-profit jails, and that is a direct conflict of interest. They are intentionally trying to keep Despicable Maine from finding this public information by redesigning their websites to totally omit these public articles. It is absolute proof they are scared of the inmates being educated about court misconduct. If you want to live in a place that makes 450 laws per year, all targeting you, move to Maine. The lawbreaker state needs more victims. If you found this special video report informative, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights and despicable tactics used by Despicable Maine. Thanks for joining us today. I am Ethan Drake. Until next time.